On today's show, the Olympics have reached its knockout round. We'll look into how every Ottawa Senator has done so far.
And we start off our semi-annual top 10 Sens prospects rankings.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. Today is Monday, February 16th. Hope everybody's enjoying the long weekend. Pilsy, Tim Stützle is tied for the Olympic lead in goals.
I did not think we would hear that, honestly, at any point of the tournament, Ross, let alone at the end of the preliminary rounds. Scoring a goal each game, pretty impressive. Almost didn't happen, but he made sure to get that one goal in up against his good friends, Jake Sanderson and Brady Tkachuk. Ultimately, the first goal for Team Germany in a 5-1 loss. But hey, Timmy got one, and he's been having a nice tournament, all things considered, especially when you look at how he's done compared to his teammate, Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, Draisaitl is getting a bit of the tougher matchups and playing a ridiculous amount. So is Timmy, though. Timmy's playing a ton right now, and he's doing a really good job. The one, maybe two goals, bit of a lucky bounce. One went right off a defender and in, but he did have a couple of good moments. The one against the States was sick, and his first goal of the tournament, one-timer from the slot, off balance. Love to see it.
And then falling in that celebration, that iconic photo, so good.
So good. And the Sens are doing a good job at the tournament overall. Brady Tkachuk's been an impact player, as we expected he would with the United States. Jake Sanderson with 2 assists in the win against Germany, so he's on the score sheet. And how about Nicholas Matinpalo being parachuted in for game 2 and scoring right away?
And not like a deflection or a bounce or, he gets lucky. That's a goal scorer's goal from Matinpalo there. And Mad Sogard gets into a game. Lars Eller is playing. It's been a fun tournament to watch the Ottawa Senators play. And ultimately, they're one of the NHL teams that is racking up points as a collective unit.
Yeah, some of the most in the National Hockey League right now. You love to see it. The Senators finished the preliminary round with 4 assists and 7 goals, a combined +6 between the 5 players. And then, of course, Mads. Tough spot for Mads.
Yeah. Going
in, starting the game against the States. That's tough.
It's basically like being thrown to the wolves there, because Denmark was like, we don't know if this is our best opportunity to win. We're going to give Freddie Anderson the night off here and give this one to Mads. But hey, having an opportunity to play in an Olympic game representing your country, that's something you can never take away from Mads. I forget, Ross, what our official points predictions were for each player. We should have made some sort of note of that to see how close we were, but I don't think we're too far off.
No, but it's not done yet, because every team's moving on. Qualifying games are tomorrow. Tim Stützle will be a part of that, and so will Lars Eller. But otherwise, it's going to be a wait approach for the other teams. You've got Finland waiting, Canada, the States, all awaiting the quarterfinals, which will get going on Wednesday. We'll discuss that more on tomorrow's show, which we're going to record after at least the Czechia-Denmark game ends, so we can know who Canada's opponent is before we record. Also, the Ottawa Senators are back at practice tomorrow, Pillsy, at 2:00.
Seems way too early for me. They don't play till the 26th. What's that, 10 days from now? Give these guys a bit more of a vacation. Let them spend more time with their family. But I guess they're coming back, because the Sens are going to be without a good chunk of their roster in this one. So seems a little early for me. I don't know not a CBA guy, so I don't know if they got their standard vacation time and that's that. But that's fun, at least, to see Sens jerseys back buzzing around on the ice.
Yeah, and we'll get some storylines out of that, of course, when the Sens get back on the ice February 26th. It's going to go bingo, bango, bongo. All of a sudden, we'll be at the trade deadline just 8 days after the Senators play their first game. The Sens have 4 games to play before the trade deadline. Home against Detroit. Then they embark on their longest remaining road trip, where they go Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, trade deadline, Seattle, Vancouver, and then back home to play Montreal. So you're either out west or playing divisional opponents in the next stretch for Ottawa. It's going to be huge. And I bet Stevie Staios probably wishes, and not just because he's a steady, patient guy, but to know what kind of situation the Sens are in. I'm sure we'll know better after that Montreal game following the road trip, but Staios is going to have to make decisions about what direction and how aggressive he thinks he needs to be to make a push for the postseason. That has to be the goal. You don't have a first-round pick. You've got veterans that finally made the playoffs, and now they're like, wait, is this just going to happen once in a blue moon? Like, the Sens have to make the playoffs. Like, I think every fan knows that, but I've come very strongly to that realization over the break.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a bold statement by me, Ross, but if the Sens don't make the playoffs this year, it's a failed season.
Completely failed.
It's as clear as that. When you don't have a first-round pick, there is nothing to fall back on when you don't make the playoffs. It's just a waste of a season, honestly.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of pressure, I think, put on this group coming out of the Olympics. And you're looking, and look, Sens fans are far from the only one, so I'm not going to fault them for that. But there is that crowd that's saying, look at how Brady is running around every shift at the Olympics. We knew he would. But remember what he did after Four Nations? He did the same thing for Ottawa. That game coming out of the break right out of the break was the stinker? I think, or was that going into the break? The one you were at against Winnipeg. That was after the Four Nations because we were at they went on a 5-game losing streak out of the Four Nations. But then Brady put his cape on in the game against the New York Rangers at home where they erased a 2-goal deficit. That was around the trade deadline. Ottawa was starting to play better by then, but this is going to be needing to see the same Brady Tkachuk, same Tim Stützle, Jake Sanderson, all those key lottery boys. They need to come through here in the stretch run.
Well, I mean,
it's
pretty tough to say Timmy and Sanderson haven't already been doing that. And then when you look at the point totals and the stats, you could argue that Brady has been doing that. But where I want to point to, Ross, is Mark Lazarus wrote an article for The Athletic and had Mike Sullivan, head coach of Team USA, quotes in there. And the thing that I think Sens fans would be fair to point out is that drag your team into the battle leadership mentality that we know and love that Brady Tkachuk has. That maybe you might feel like he hasn't had that with the Ottawa Senators lately, but it's so clear he has that with Team USA here on the bench, tapping guys, yelling, screaming, pointing, being emotional, showing his passion. I think it would be fair to say we haven't seen the amount of that style of leadership from Brady recently in Ottawa, and that's what Sens fans want to see when he comes back, hopefully after winning either a silver or a bronze medal, and that motivates him. But it's good to see that from Brady. And it's nice also for the rest of the hockey world to be like, oh, man, he actually is a very good leader. Just because the Sens haven't had that much success, you can't just point and be like, oh, well, he's not a good leader. What have they won? That's not really a fair evaluation of leadership, in my opinion. So I think it's good to see that Brady is putting this on for the world and bring it back home to Ottawa and keep it going and make it prevalent for this playoff push.
Yes, and it does need to be pointed out, Brady Tkachuk has 16 points in his last 12 games.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The stats are there, but I think it would be fair for Sens fans to be like, we're not
career best
that
stats,
same emotion.
Career best stats. These aren't just like
totally
a good season. Like, he's playing the best offensive hockey of his career. And I would argue defensively, positioning wise, he's playing that. It's just about finishing every single check the way that we know you can. He set the bar as high as he did. That's where, like, if this was Dylan Cousins, we'd say, yeah, he's been playing really physical. He's been playing great. But Brady has set the bar as one of the elite power forward, in-your-face players. So let's see that when he gets back from the Olympics. But like I said, that's far from the New Jersey Devils fans about Jack Hughes just playing, let alone how dynamic he looks for Team USA. Austin Matthews is getting some heat from Leaf fans the same way. This is a far from isolated Ottawa conversation about these players. Connor McDavid is saying the same thing about playing for the Edmonton Oilers versus playing for Team Canada. Like, we just have to accept that we would probably all be the same way, representing your country at the Olympics. Like, it's such a small tournament. It's easier, and I say very strongly because it should be easy to get up for an NHL game every night, but we haven't also played 500 of them. That said, you have to treat every game, to borrow a phrase from our good friend Brady Tkachuk, like it's game 7, because frankly, with all the points they pissed away earlier in the season, we basically have to have that game 7 mindset the rest of the way.
Or to borrow a quote from our friend Lyndon Slewage, you're only as good as your last performance, right? Like that's also a case. But then Ross, like for the people that are looking, being like, oh man, it's crazy how much more passionate these players are in the Olympics. Okay, let's say it's the flip side. Then what? People are like, wow, it's pretty sad that these players can't get up for the Olympics. They only play hard when there's a paycheck and they're making that money, and they're trying to get better sponsor deals or endorsements through their NHL teams and stuff like that. Like what? Like no matter what, you can find an argument to complain about when it comes to that situation.
Unless you're Tim Stützle and you have one gear and it's go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What a stud.
Yeah, I mean, Sanderson, I know he'd been quiet for the most part, Ross, but man, watching that assist that he had on Matthews was so weird because Matthews is like, oh, damn, Sandy, like that was a sick play. And Sandy's just like, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
It's like off the wall from the blue line in OT, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, very similar. Yeah.
There's a good photo of Austin Matthews and Tim Stützle shaking hands after that game. It wasn't caught on camera, at least on the CBC Gem feed I was reading, but nice moment apparently between Brady and Timmy as well.
Yeah, they talked about it after the game, being asked, hey, what was it like playing up against each other? And both of them were like, well, Timmy was like, it's pretty weird. Like he was slashing me a couple times. He's playing hard out there, but both of them obviously had good things to say about each other and emphasized how friendly they are off the ice.
I like it. Well, Brady basically repeated exactly what he said in the clip that we posted the morning from our interview with Brady, where he's just like, no teammates out there. He's going to do the same. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you, Brady, by the way, for not putting Timmy in the hospital. We need that guy ready to go. He did stretch out his leg, though, and go down just behind the bench for a second, and I was holding my breath.
Oh, my God. What a disaster that would be. And even in, I think it was the first game, Ross, there was a bit of an injury concern. I think it was Timmy's wrist he was getting looked at on the bench as well. So those are panic modes, especially Kevin Fiala stretchered off the ice and likely done for the season. Like these
done for the regular season for sure. Confirmed.
Yeah. These things happen. So it's
Sens fans know better than anybody with Dominik Hasek, right?
Yeah, I mean a little different because how injured was he after? But I mean, stretchered off the season, stretchered off the ice and surgery is pretty clear cut.
Yeah. So we hope that Kevin Fiala's. Man, that's a battle to be going through that. That's tough. And all the LA Kings fans, just as an aside, obviously his health is first and foremost. You trade for Panarin to get an extra layer of depth. And now it turns out you've just given up those assets to break even. At least they got the contract extension done with him. So it's not.
And Panarin is a better player than Fiala, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Fiala's a good player, though.
Yeah. I love Fiala.
Tomorrow we're going to record, like I said, after the Czechia-Denmark game, the 4 games tomorrow. Germany, so Timmy is taking on France. We should see Timmy in Germany in the quarterfinals. Be nice. Really like to see that. Then you've got Switzerland playing Italy. It's a game Sens fans have little to no interest in. Of course, we're dialed in. Czechia, Denmark. Who's going to be Canada's opponent? Will it be Lars Eller and Denmark? Will it be Czechia? And then Sweden's playing Latvia in a game where you can't count out the Latvians, man. They grind.
Asked Team Germany about that.
They grind. Kasper's Dogovins, your boy Rudy Balcers. We're going to get to our top 10 Sens prospects. You used to battle for Rudy Balcers.
Dude, Rudy was my guy.
That sounds like a good segue into our top 10 prospects. It's going to start with a debate on whether or not a player should be included, and we're going to do prospects number 10, 9, and 8 today. The countdown will continue in each of the next 2 episodes, so make sure you're subscribed everywhere you get your podcasts. We'll do 7 through 4 tomorrow, and then 3, 2, 1 on Wednesday. So let's lead it off next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. I'm talking flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of the year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick win and cash, but it can also send you to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub, our pub in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. We're going to be boots on the ground there in less than a month ahead of the Senators matinee against the Anaheim Ducks on March 14th. You can get your tickets online for the Sens Shuttle. I believe that one will be posted towards the end of this month. We'll keep you updated on that, but GlebeCentralPub.com is the spot where you can get your Sens Shuttle tickets. It leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game flies. Like, you hear horror stories how long it gets to the rink from downtown. Not with the Glebe Central Pub. It's an awesome shuttle, and it brings you back to the pub afterwards, all for just $18 round trip. They've also got the Olympics going at the Glebe Central Pub. They got live music every Saturday night. So go check them out at 779 Bank Street and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. All right, Billsy. So the Olympics continues. Canada awaiting Czechia, Denmark. Do you have a preferred opponent?
Probably Denmark, to be honest. I think it's probably the easier team to beat. And obviously, we're hoping Sens players, Lars Eller, Mads Søgaard, get more Olympic games. So yeah, I'll go Denmark.
Even though Canada already beat Czechia 5-0?
Yeah, no, I'll stick with that. And I know it's totally different, but Czechia, seeing Czechia and Canada play on the international stage, I know World Junior is very different than the Olympics, but it gives me PTSD flashbacks.
Well, I don't mean to give you PTSD flashbacks both ways, but Denmark eliminated Canada at the World Championships last year in the quarterfinal. Nikolai Ehlers scored 2 goals in a 2-1 win.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be closer to Olympic rosters than World Juniors, so that's actually a fair point. No, I'm sticking with my original answer.
Okay.
Like, who are you more scared of? David Pastrnak or Nikolai Ehlers? I think
I'm not scared of either. Have you seen Team Canada?
Yeah.
This team is so
I'm not scared of anyone.
We'll discuss Canada a little bit more tomorrow. We wanted to touch on the Sens players at the tournament right now. And it actually leads in well to what we're doing this entire week here on Locked On Senators. We are continuing what we started last week when we had Bruce Garriock on, where he was getting the rumor mill spinning. Mackenzie Weegar, lots of good feedback on that, Billsy. People are very divided. And for me, it comes down to the price of acquisition. A lot of people say the contract's as big of a problem. Saw some people comparing it to Nick Jensen, comparing it to Travis Hamonic. I wouldn't go that far. Those were 2 players in much more limited roles than Mackenzie Weegar. But in terms of wrong side of 30, extended, high money player that comes in, he would have to be good. He'd have to be better than he's playing now in Calgary to make Sens better.
Yeah. I don't know, because in Calgary, he's relied upon as a number 1 defenseman now that Anderson's out, right? In Ottawa, he could be your 3 or even 4.
Yeah, fair.
Right?
That's actually a good way to look at it, yeah.
So I don't think it should be looked at in the same way. Obviously, Calgary, very different spot in their competitive window than Ottawa. 6.5 is going to look like not that much with the salary cap going up. We got to start switching our mindsets to inflated cap percentages and things like that moving forward. And I know he's 32, but I still think he's got some logs left on the fire, Ross, and he's the type of player this team needs, in my opinion. So I get it if you're looking at how this year is going and you're like, oh man, this guy's supposed to be the answer, but it doesn't have to be the answer. He just has to be an upgrade on Nick Jensen or Jordan Spence. And I actually think Jordan Spence could be a top 4 defenseman, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And I love Clevin and Spence as a pair, so I'd like to keep them there and get Weegar in that spot beside Tom Chabot.
So then we're going to deal with the cap implications, not of any specific trade, but where the Sens at with the cap? We've got Brian coming on. He works over at Cap Wages. So he'll give us the lowdown on that later this week. And we do a lot of trade targets, and we will get a couple of those later on Friday or next week, likely Friday. We're also going to do a trade bait board for the Senators, who could be on the move on the current roster, or are we completely against that? So that'll be a tee up for the week ahead. But top 10 prospects before we get to the actual honorable mentions and 10-9-8 on our rankings. We got to have a discussion if Stephen Halliday is still a prospect.
He is the prototype for debates on whether someone is a prospect or not, in my opinion. I mean, he's 23 years old. He's got games in Belleville. He's got games in the NHL. He was drafted as an overager. For me, the answer is yes, he still is a prospect. I mean, I think our general line is 23 years old. You're still considered a prospect. Different for goalies, and we'll go over that. But he hasn't played enough NHL games, in my opinion. And I would view it this way. He didn't start the year in the NHL. And for the most part, he's only been called up to play in the NHL due to injuries. Like, he hasn't fully earned an NHL spot without other circumstances or variables. And I'm not saying he couldn't or shouldn't even, but that's just the reality of the situation so far.
It's just strange because I went back deep into the history books of Locked On Senators. And when we did our 2022 top 10 Sens prospects, our cutoff was 25 NHL games. He's played exactly that number.
It's even better reason why it's debatable.
Okay. I think we're going to keep him in this year. And the reasoning is we have multiple players on this list who were drafted before him. I know he was an overage draft pick, so it spikes the debate once again. He was eligible in 2020, but he was drafted in 2022. So he's going to be on the prospect list, but no spoilers. It ain't today. 10, 9, 8 honorable mentions coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. We are with you wherever you listen to podcasts, also available on YouTube. You can also join the Everydayers Club for just $5 a month or $50 a year. You'll get ad-free content wherever you get your podcasts. You just go through Supercast and it will update your list to be our ad-free version of the show. It'll also get you access to our members only Discord. So find the link in the description below. It really does help us out. Pilsy, we've been doing these prospect lists for years, going back to pre-COVID, but I couldn't find those ones. Only the ones in the YouTube era. I've got our last 8, and it's always interesting to look back at them because we're either really right or, man, we can be wrong.
Sounds like the scouting world in a nutshell, Ross. Every scout can probably tell you, oh man, I was so right on this guy, or oh man, was I so wrong on this one. And it's important to remember that prospect development isn't a linear path. There's going to be ups, downs. Guys are going to have big years, and you think they're going to build off that, and then they falter, and then they pick it back up, or they start slow and start getting hot. So it's just a reminder to be patient with these young prospects, because a lot of these guys, like all of them, Ross, are too young to rent cars, like under 25. Like these guys got a lot of growth to do, not only as players, but as people as well. And
we're trying to grow as scouts, Pilsy. We're trying to see the game. We're trying to watch a lot of tape and get our opinions as correct as possible, which will be like a MLB batting average. As we know, those are about 30%. That said, Pilsy, we got a player on our list today who wasn't on the list last time. He wasn't in our top 10. He had been in the past, not last summer, but he's back, and it's because of a strong start to the season. The way we weigh this, I would say that overall, we value a little bit the NHL readiness as a tiebreaker first than a guy who might have a little bit better potential, but he's playing against such bad competition. Just think about, as an example, putting Curtis McDermott in the OHL. Right? Like there could be a guy that might develop into a Curtis McDermott. I'm looking at you, Gabriel Eliason. But there's also guys who just won't make it from there. So you have to weigh the risk of not even playing pro hockey with guys who have been there and at least been able to carve out a role in a career in professional hockey. So that's why the honorable mentions are always interesting, because these guys might sneak into the list by next summer. And who's your first guy who didn't quite make the list, but we want to give him some love anyways?
Well, he was probably even farther from just didn't quite make the list, Ross, because if we look at our OVRs, our organizational value rankings, this guy is near the bottom every time. But I'm going to continue to give some love to Owen Beckner. He started off this year very hot, 20 years old, center, left shot, drafted 2023, 7th round, 204th overall, playing with Colorado College this year, 24 games, 6 goals, 13 assists, 19 points. He's really slowed down. He's on 4 games with no points, his last 4 games. But I think he's an interesting player to watch, because for the value of getting a guy 204th overall, he certainly exceeded his value so far, especially this year. So that, I wanted to give him a mention here.
And I will give the Russian Fox a mention, Dmitry Asayev, the shocking pick from this past draft, taking a Russian first and foremost, who's listed at 5'9" and 148 pounds. He just hasn't played against high enough competition to warrant a spot in the top 10. But what he's doing in the Russian junior leagues can't be ignored. He's got 43 points in 32 games. He's plus 27. He's getting a lot of ice time, playing over 20 minutes in a lot of these games. He is a super skilled offensive player, and we'll be following his development, I'm sure, for the next 3, 4, 5 years before he comes over. So I think that it's just been a nice, shining offensive player in the prospect pool that over the last couple of years has been a lot of middle 6 upside. This guy is legit scoring threat if he can pan out.
Yeah, and Ross, initially when I do my list just quickly off vibes, like, ooh, what do I think of this guy? Put him here, put him there. And then I start weeding it out. He was on my top 10 list initially. So the potential is there for him. And just the fact that they went off the board and did something a little more interesting and different is very intriguing to me.
Out of any Sens prospect playing outside of the Belleville Sens, shout out Stephen Halliday, he's got the most points per game of any prospect anywhere this season. So definitely, I think, deserves a mention there. And I'm always going to bang the table for my guy, Kevin Riedler. It's been a bit of an up and down season. He's had some really good games, some he might want back, but I'm still thinking of him as a long-term option. 6'7", covers the net really well. Much more, I'd say, positionally sound than a guy like Matt Sogard, who earlier in his career relied a lot of his athleticism and just being able to get from post to post as quickly as he can. But I'll go with Kevin Riedler as a goalie-friendly show, honorable mention. Which brings us to our top 10 list. Ottawa Senators prospect, winter of 2026. Pilsy coming in at number 10. It's the 10th overall pick from the 2021 draft. Tyler Boucher is back on our top 10 list. And frankly, it's because he's been healthy more often than he has in the past.
Big time, yeah. Now, obviously, you got to start off with saying you'd like your 10th overall pick from 5 years ago to be higher than your 10th best prospect. But like I mentioned earlier, not all prospect paths are linear, and he's had a lot of adversity thrown his way, particularly with injuries and not being able to stay healthy. But this year, 25 games with the Belleville Senators, 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points, a +8. So for the first time in his any league, whether it's NCAA, OHL, or AHL, he's a plus player. So that's a good sign. And he's been hot lately. I mean, he even had 3 points in one game recently. So we're really happy that Tyler Boucher is starting to find a groove here. And we got to get him to over 47 games, which was his high last year with the Belleville Senators. Hopefully, well, I mean, right now he's projected to finish 47, playing 47 games. So let's get Belleville to the playoffs. How about that? That's how he'll get a little further along there. But you can't deny the skills that Tyler Boucher has when he is healthy.
Got a great shot, nose for the net. He showed his playmaking ability recently with a full-on breakaway, but had eyes on the back of his head and put a feed there for Jan Unique to put it in. And I just think that as long as he stays healthy, the projection is still there for him to be an effective, at least bottom 6 player with a bit of offensive pop when he can be a bumper guy around the net. but he's just got that physical nature that teams love. And hopefully one day it's in Ottawa if they can find a spot, if he forces a spot more so to get a mix and get a few games in and then make an impact, because he can be a really physical player. And we hope that it continues. But nice to see him back on this list, because I'm only putting the top 5, like the last 5 rankings that we've had for each player on their graphic here, if you're watching on YouTube. And it was back to back. It's been a year since we've ranked him, and he was 9th out of 10 the last time he was on in the summer 2 years ago. And he had been 4th before that. We had a lot of blowback for a while because he was in the top 5 longer than a lot of people had, because we do see the skill set. It's just he needs to be able to show it. And he's getting opportunities, playing with good players right now in Belleville. And when he's in the lineup, he's been making an impact. So Tyler Boucher is 10th on our Locked On Senators top prospects list, which brings us to number 9. And that's Oscar Pettersson. Pew, pew. Pistol Pete, drafted in 2022. He was a 3rd-round pick, 72nd overall. He's now been a mainstay for a couple of seasons in Belleville after making the transition from playing barely any hockey in the SHL. Was just unfairly a grocery stick over there. The team wanting to go with players who were going to grow and stay more in the organization, but he knew that he wanted to come to North America, and the Senators did too. But what nobody knew was that he was going to be a centerman. He was transitioned from wing to center last year, and he's really become a matchup bottom 6 center in the American Hockey League. And I hope it doesn't cap what we think that he can do offensively one day, because Pilsy, this was a guy that throughout the junior ranks was a goal-scoring machine.
Oh, yeah, big time. Like, look back 2022, 23 with Rogla in the J20. He scored 23 goals in 24 games. Like, he was lighting it up. And I think where Oscar Pettersson has a lot of potential for me, Ross, is his ability to forecheck and be aggressive on pucks, because I don't see Oscar Pettersson having top 6 upside. I would even say and I don't want to put a ceiling on him, but I think this is a guy that when he gets to the NHL, he could be a very effective 4th line player. Maybe like, what about a Cole Reinhardt comparison? Like, is that something that kind of would make sense to you with maybe a little bit more offensive ability? Like, because when Oscar Pettersson gets the puck in prime opportunities, he can rip it. But how often is he going to be able to do that with the minutes and role he's playing? Maybe not that often, but he plays a hard game. He was the Jonathan Petra hardest working player in Dev Camp this year. So he shows that he has that passion and an aggressive play to him, and then give him the puck in a good spot and he can make good opportunities of it. So we're really excited for what Oscar Pettersson can do, and I hope he continues to get more opportunities in Belleville.
Yeah, through 47 games this year with Belleville, he's got 9 goals, which matches his total from last season in 20 less games this year. And he's already got 1 more point than he had last season. So if he can get that to like 18 goals, if he can double it, which would be, I know they play 72, so he's more than halfway there. So he'd have to up the scoring per game to get there. I think that would be a great season. If he can have like 30 some points, 18 goals, try to get back to even in the plus minus category, but more importantly, help be a shutdown center at that level to get them to a playoff spot. I think this is a really important second half of the season for Oscar, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And he's consistently a centerman now. And I think that's a better spot for him to be, because he does have that 2-way game to him. And it allows him to kind of feel the game a little bit more without getting the minutes that he probably would like. So, yeah, Oscar Pettersson, number 9 here.
Absolutely. He was 8th last year, 10th in the winter last year, 8th in the summer. He's now 9th on our organizational value rankings. Now we get to our first goalie on our top 10 list. Coming in at number 8, it's the 3rd round pick from this past draft, 97th overall. It's 18-year-old Luca Beckman.
This guy is so intriguing because I think he's got a lot of potential, more potential than we're giving him credit for here at number 8, in my opinion. But it's just so early. It's hard to put him above other guys that have already had a better sample size, like we talked about earlier. But in 28 games this year, he's got an 8-15-3 record, 3.02 goals against, 2 shutouts, and .910 save percentage. However, there needs to be more context added to this. In his first 23 games with the Drakkar, one of the worst teams, not only in the Q, but in the entire CHL. And he's getting shelled night in, night out. Ironically, 2 his only 2 shutouts this year came with the Drakkar. And then he gets shipped off to Chicoutimi, the Saguenayes, the Sags, I believe is the better way to say it. So I'll just go with that so I don't embarrass myself. In 5 games, a 1.82 goals against, a 936 save percentage, and a 4-1 record. So put this guy on a team that isn't the worst. In fact, one of the premier teams, at least in the queue, and he can shut the door. So he's exciting for sure, and I can't wait to see him get even more of an opportunity with his new team.
Yeah, and he's only played a handful of games. So going back to the time with the Drakkar, fun fact, Billsy, those 2 shutouts, one of them came in a 1-0 victory. The other one was 3-0, but the team got outshot 37-26, 37 save shutout there for Beckman. He's just, for me, like the goal for him, all roads are leading towards competing to be the starter for Team Canada next year at the World Juniors. Like, when's the last time the Sens had a goalie for Team Canada? Jeff Glass? Like, a trivia answer for who was the goalie on the best World Junior team ever? Yeah, it was Sens like 5th rounder, Jeff Glass.
It's been a while.
It's been way too long. But like Ravensburgen, aging out. Ivan Kovic, aging out, I believe. Maybe he might be the guy who he's competing with, actually. But you're also looking at who's the guy who started this year? George. Anyway,
Carter George.
George. He's aged out for sure. So this is a guy where that can be a carrot dangling right ahead of him, but even closer than that, now he's on a Memorial Cup contender. Can he be the guy? Because they've been splitting starts since he went there. Obviously, as a first-place team, it's a bit of a luxury to be able to go out and get a goalie because clearly the guy they had was good enough to help them be where they were in the standings. So I know we saw a comment on YouTube recently. Someone went to go see him at the Hull Olympique game or Gatineau Olympique game, and said he was shocked when the goalie was catching the wrong way. He used my term there. So it wasn't Luca Beckman, but he said he looked great on the bench. Looked great. Was awesome. Ready to go.
You need that.
Yeah, clipboard, ready to go. Luca Beckman, a long-term project, obviously, but he was just too intriguing to leave off our top 10 list here, as he was number 6 in the summer, but a couple good seasons, especially from some guys in Belleville. We had to push them up a little bit higher because they're a lot closer to being an impact player at the NHL or even professional level.
One last thing about Beckman, he was regarded by a lot of online scouts and people that cover the draft closely as one of the best value picks that the Ottawa Senators got in that draft. So that was one where I think a lot of people are like, man, that's a really good spot to pick him. 4th round, 97th overall. So you love to see the Ottawa Senators getting back into finding some talent in goal.
Yeah, and our guy Steve Ellis, who joined us for our mock draft this summer, he did a top 25, top 30 even. No, top 25 goalie prospects right now, and he made that list. Like Levi Merelainen was 9th. This was going in to the season, of course, but over there, number 23, Luca Beckman. He writes, goalies are unpredictable, but Beckman could be a really interesting pick for the Sens. So we're going to be following this storyline along here as another goalie. So many goalies in the pipeline, for the Sens, like overall, not just guys who are just drafted. Like they've got Beckman, Riedler, Parsons, Trofimov, Nikitin to a lesser extent, Levi Merelainen. Matt Sogard is obviously getting older and older at this point, but there's a lot of goalies. You just hope that one of them can be like a no doubt starter in 4 years when Linus Ullmark's contract is up at the very latest. If someone wants to stand up and say, I can be the starter right now, power to you. We'd love to see that. Please call the toll-free number to get to Steve Staios' office, ASAP. All right, Pillsy. So coming in at number 8 is Luca Beckman, which means our 8, 9, 10 rankings are done. We've got Tyler Boucher coming in at number 10, Oscar Pettersson at number 9, and Luca Beckman at number 8. We've got 7 through 4 coming on tomorrow's show. We'll also be laying out a preview for Canada's quarterfinal matchup. If you missed it at the start, just a reminder, we're going to record tomorrow's episode at the conclusion of almost said China game. If Canada was playing China in the quarterfinal, I would be very excited about that. Czechia, of course, or Denmark. Who's it going to be to take on Canada? That will be answered tomorrow. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me, just 2 honorable mentions that we didn't get to, but I just want to give some love to. Javon Moore, that's a guy with a good frame. He's having a okay college season so far, but I think there's some potential there. He was part of that 4th round. And then you mentioned him quickly there, but Jackson Parsons, who's now back up with the Belleville Senators, not even drafted by the Sens, and he's got some potential too. So I just wanted to give those guys a quick shout out.
Glad you mentioned Jackson Parsons. My final thoughts will be, welcome back to Belleville. He had a nice little stint in the ECHL. He's got a .922 save percentage down there this season. It's a tough place to play, and that team's not very good. His win-loss record is next to awful, but he's stopping as much as he can. He's seeing a lot of rubber, more importantly than anything. So he's been called back up. He's backing up Levi Marilainen. They're playing this afternoon against Hershey. They got to regroup after a real tough outing in terms of the score. They actually played really well. They outshot their opponent by double and still lost by double. So Sens fans, it's a bit similar to what you've seen at times in Ottawa this season, but big one for them today, and Jackson Parsons is back. So is that your final thought, or you got another one?
That's my final thought.
All right. We'll have more tomorrow here on Locked On Senators. Thanks so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.